Have you ever noticed how some brands don't just advertise to you? They get inside your head. They make you feel something before you even have time to think. And by the time you realize what happened, you're already halfway to clicking the buy button. Today, I want to pull back the curtain on something that rarely gets talked about openly. Something that is running quietly underneath almost every major marketing campaign you see. And that is the dark side of emotional marketing, the side most people never notice, even though it shapes what they buy, what they believe, and sometimes even how they see themselves. And here's the part that might surprise you. It's not always accidental. A lot of it is intentional, systematic, and rooted in deep human psychology. Once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them, and you'll notice them everywhere. Hi, this is Farhad, and I help business owners and real estate leaders grow faster, without stress or burnout, by sharing what I've learned from 20 years in sales, marketing, and human behavior. And stick around until the end, because I've got a free resource called Dark Psychology Awareness that will help you protect yourself and your customers from the manipulative tactics that many brands still rely on today. It's one of the most eye-opening guides we've ever released, and you'll get it free just for watching. Now let me take you into a simple moment that reveals how emotional marketing really works. Picture this. You're scrolling late at night. You're tired, you're stressed, you've had a long day, and suddenly a video pops up showing someone just like you who finally took control of their life or their body or their finances, and they're smiling like everything is now perfect. A few seconds later, you start to feel something. Maybe a bit of hope, maybe a bit of fear, maybe a bit of, that could be me. And before you even realize what's happening, you're clicking learn more. That moment, that tiny crack in your emotional world is where the dark side of emotional marketing does its work. Because emotional marketing isn't just about making people feel good. It's about creating just the right emotional cocktail so they'll take action without questioning why. And don't get me wrong, emotions are a natural and powerful part of how humans make decisions. But what's happening today is different. Many brands now use emotional triggers the same way a lockpick uses tools, to quietly open a door people didn't intend to open. And the truth is, these tactics work because they play on deep psychological tendencies that every human has. Things like our desire to belong, our fear of missing out, our embarrassment about not being good enough, our craving for simplicity in a complicated world, our instinct to avoid loss rather than chase gain, and the darkest one of all, our hidden belief that something in our life is broken and someone out there has the missing piece. When a marketer knows how to press these emotional buttons in the right sequence, they can guide almost anyone toward a decision that feels personal, even though it was engineered. Let me explain how this emotional engineering actually works, because it's eye-opening once you see it clearly. Imagine a simple emotional arc. First, the brand creates an emotional disturbance, often something subtle. They show a problem, a frustration, a fear, or a pain point that you already experience, but maybe you are thinking about it right now. That's the hook. That's the moment they grab your attention by tapping into something fragile. Then they amplify it. They make the problem feel bigger, more urgent, more costly. They show you what you lose by ignoring it. They show you how other people are fixing the issue while you're still stuck. They create emotional contrast, your now versus your could be. And then comes the turn. They position themselves as the guide, the solution, the safe path, the thing that finally brings your emotions back into balance. Relief, hope, identity, pride, belonging. And here's the psychological trick that makes this so powerful. The brain is always trying to escape discomfort as fast as possible. So when a brand creates an emotional gap and then fills it with their product, your brain grabs onto the solution before your logic catches up. That's why emotional marketing works so well. And that's also why it has such a dangerous edge. Because when misused, it doesn't just inspire action, it overrides your judgment. Let me give you a simple real-world example, something almost everyone has experienced. Have you ever seen a commercial where a product is framed as the one thing that finally makes you enough? The shampoo that finally makes you confident. The car that finally makes you successful. The diet program that finally makes you lovable. The productivity tool that finally makes you worthy. Notice the pattern? The message is always this: without us, you're incomplete. This is one of the oldest psychological levers in the book. It plays on inadequacy, an emotional pressure point we all carry from childhood. Brands know that if they tap that feeling and then offer relief, the customer associates the brand with emotional safety. And once that emotional bond forms, it's hard to break. Now, let's go deeper, because this is where things start to get uncomfortable. One of the most powerful emotional marketing tactics used today is something I call the aspiration twist. It starts with aspirational imagery: perfect homes, perfect bodies, perfect health, perfect wealth. On the surface, these are just inspiring scenes. But underneath, something else is happening. The viewer's brain compares their life with the perfect life on screen. That comparison creates emotional tension, and tension creates desire. And desire, especially if fueled by insecurity, creates buying behavior. But the real twist is this: the aspiration is never meant to be reached. If you actually reached it, you'd stop buying. So the system keeps moving the finish line just far enough that you keep chasing the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. That's the emotional treadmill many consumers are stuck on without ever realizing it. Another dark tactic is what you might call emotional hijacking. This is when a brand intentionally triggers a strong emotional state: excitement, fear, nostalgia, loneliness, embarrassment, even guilt, and then attaches their message to that emotion while you're mentally unguarded. This works because when emotions rise, critical thinking drops. You feel something strongly, and your brain shortcuts to the simplest available interpretation, which usually comes from whatever message is right in front of you. That's why fear-driven news stories are often followed by ads for security systems. It's not an accident. It's sequencing. But here's the deeper impact of all this. Emotional marketing, when misused, doesn't just influence what people buy. It influences what people believe. It shapes identity. It shapes self-worth. It shapes what people think is normal or possible or expected. It even shapes what people think they need in order to be okay. So when brands lean too hard on these tactics, it creates a world where people are constantly comparing themselves, constantly feeling behind, constantly chasing the next hit of emotional relief. And that right there is the dark side. Now, let me shift this conversation, because here's something important. Emotional marketing isn't bad on its own. Emotions are natural. Humans make decisions emotionally first and logically second. That's how we're wired. The problem begins when marketers exploit vulnerabilities instead of empowering people. Ethical emotional marketing is when you help people make a decision that's good for them, not just good for you. It's when you speak to emotions in a way that uplifts, not manipulates. It's when you tell stories that create clarity, not pressure. And most importantly, it's when your goal is to serve, not extract. This kind of emotional marketing is powerful, sustainable, and trust-building. The dark side does the opposite. It burns trust to chase quick wins. And there's a reason why ethical marketing always wins long-term. Because customers aren't dumb. People feel when a brand is trying to exploit their fears or insecurities. They may not say it out loud. They may not even be able to explain it logically. But something inside them pulls back. Something feels off. And once trust breaks, it rarely returns. So if you're a business owner, here's what matters most. Your job is not to avoid emotions in your marketing. Your job is to use emotion responsibly. Use emotional clarity, not emotional manipulation. Use emotional storytelling, not emotional pressure. Use emotional connection, not emotional extraction. When you do that, you don't just attract customers, you attract loyal advocates. and they stay with you because they trust you, not because you trick them. And if you're a consumer, here's the good news. Once you understand these tactics, they lose most of their power. When you recognize a guilt trigger, a scarcity script, a fear hook, or a worthiness play, your brain steps out of the emotional trance and starts thinking again. Awareness gives you control. And that's exactly why I want you to grab the free resource I mentioned earlier. It's called Dark Psychology Awareness, and it gives you a deeper look into the psychological tactics that marketers, influencers, and even online scammers use to sway decisions. When you understand these patterns, you not only protect yourself, you also learn how to communicate with integrity in your own business, using influence in a way that respects people instead of manipulating them. You'll find the link to download it for free right below this video. Book a call with us if you're serious about taking your business to the next level. And if you found this video helpful, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it.